with the set method, walk us through how we would say approach a situation like that.
Sure. Yeah. So first starting and just like noticing like what comes up for us, right? I think a lot of the times we'll go into that protective mode. We're supposed to keep our kids safe and somebody's hitting somebody else. And so you get into that primal state and being able to notice it and regulate yourself first to say, if they're still beating on each other, like how do we separate that? But if they hit them and this stopped and nobody's currently in physical danger, how do we first regulate? And for me, like taking deep breaths is really helpful if I pair that with a mantra or a phrase that could remind me in the moment. Otherwise, I just take deep breaths and seethe, like just continue to go. I need a mantra, and I have different ones for different people in my life that just remind me of what their actual goal might be.
Like, what are some of your favorites? Because I have my favorites. Like I love, this is not an emergency. Because if nobody's like in dire danger, it's not, right? So I can just tell my nervous system that. Or for if it's kids, I'm like, I'm helping my child. But generally, this is not an emergency. It really does it for me.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. Honestly, a common one for me is they're not trying to piss you off. Like that, because in the moment with the defiance, manipulative stuff, I said I have a lot of triggers around that. It can feel like they're trying to. And so that one can calm me. I have some for my husband that comes up for me a lot that's really helpful is he's not trying to make your life harder. He's not trying to make your life harder, although sometimes it can feel that way. But is that really his like underlying mission this whole time? And yeah, I have one for my mother-in-law who's awesome and so involved in our life. And obviously still like you spend enough time with any human and you're going to get triggered by him in some way, is that she is really trying to be helpful. She's really trying to be helpful. So I have different ones that in the moment I can say to myself, and it just helps me come back to now and what they're really after, and not what's the story my brain's often telling myself about this. And so in the fighting, in that moment in the fighting, for me, it's usually, honestly, I have biases around, I was the one who would like lash back and hit. And I felt like my mom never saw my brother teasing me or being annoying or whatever. And she would say, just ignore him. Just ignore him and he won't do it anymore. And oh gosh, it just makes my blood boil. But so for me, I actually have more triggers in these instances around the kid who is doing the teasing versus it's easier for me to usually have compassion for the kid who hit because that was me. So even just noticing like, where are your biases and who do you feel like you need to support? And then we look at it as triage. Like if somebody's really hurt, I'm going to turn and support them. Do we need an ice pack? Do we need a Band-Aid? Is there something that needs to happen here? And really just like quickly emotion coach the kid who was hit. And then I'm going to turn to the kid who hit, who at this point is usually pretty dysregulated, and let them know, I'm not mad at you. You're not in trouble. I'm going to help you. Just to start with,
a bunch of people, I'm going to stop you there because a bunch of people would say, but wait a second, doesn't the kid who hit need consequences for them to learn not to do it again? Because I know that's what people would say here. So that I just want to stop you and throw that question out.
Sure. Yeah. If we wanted like a short-term fix, totally, I think that's the way to go, is like in the moment to say, I want to make sure this doesn't happen again. And in order to do that, I'm going to make you feel shut out from this. I'm going to do it through shame, or I'm going to do it through punishment, or I'm going to make you inside deeply regret what you did. And that's not my goal. My personal goal is to help this kid build tools to do something differently in the future, which requires for us a relationship of trust and connection. And so for me personally, it's not just to make this stop for now as my goal. My goal is like, all right, next time this comes up and this kid has this feeling, do they have a tool for what else to do with it? And if not, it's my job to help scaffold that and teach and support that. So it depends on what your goals are. For me, it's a longer term game that I'm looking at. And so turning to them and letting them know, I'm not mad at you and I'm going to help you figure this out. For me, is that relationship of connection and trust. I believe that these kids are good kids and that that all of us, in the same way that just this morning, We woke up and Sage, my 2-year-old, had thrown up all over his crib. And yeah, cool way to start the day. Very real. And my husband was like getting him cleaned up, and I came in and realized what's going on. And my husband snapped at me. And I don't think it's that he's trying to be rude in that moment. I think that he's overwhelmed because he just walked into puke in a crib. And I think when we can come at this from a place of humans who genuinely want to be in relationship with us, and they want to feel connected to their siblings, to us, they want to feel loved and included, and there's something that's coming in the way right now of them feeling connected, loved, included, I think it can shift our perspective then, and then shift our response. And so I'd let that kid know, I'm going to help you. And then it's looking at who, and you're going to know your kids best, who needs the most support with regulation. Some kids are at this point, or at any point, will have some tools for regulation, and other kids really rely more on that like interdependence, co-regulation component. And I would turn to that kid and say, I'm going to help you feel calm, and we'll help your sibling feel calm, and then we'll figure this out together. Really letting people know, I'm not here to punish, we're here to figure this out. And we start with regulation. And so because really what we do is separate out sensory regulation from emotional regulation in the book, and in our approach, where we're looking at the body first, of what's happening with your body. It doesn't mean that you stop feeling your feeling. Once you're regulated, you're still going to feel it. You can feel really angry at somebody and be screaming and all fired up, and regulate and still feel angry at them, but be able to communicate with words or communicate in a different way, work through that emotion. And so that's what we aim to do first, is focus on the body. How do we get back into a space where we feel safe and calm and able to communicate with each other? And we're doing that through regulation. I'm not talking about the behavior yet. We're not talking about the emotions even really yet.